Hi, and welcome to the Dinner Tonight podcast, where colleagues, friends, and fellow busy moms talk about dinner time, including recipes, meal planning, nutrition, food safety, and more.
Hi, I'm Wendy.
And I'm Odessa. Let's get into it. Okay, so Wendy, first of all, tell me what you had for dinner last night, or what you're going to have for dinner tonight.
Okay, well, last night dinner was a little crazy. I got home late, so I got a little bit out of the crock pot. It was pork roast, or not pork roast. It was beef roast and veggies. But I will go into tonight's dinner because I'm very excited. We're having steaks and grilled corn and a nice fresh green salad, and I'm so excited about it.
That sounds fabulous.
Yes. So, how about you? Dinner tonight or dinner last night? What did you have?
So, dinner last night, I've been in my sweet potato cooking era. I loved the sweet potatoes I had a couple weeks ago, so I did it again. Just easy, sliced them in half, roasted them in the oven, and I just whipped up a fast ground beef, black beans, and canned corn with some taco seasoning. And so I put the ground beef and the corn and the beans on top of my sweet potatoes, topped it with just a little bit of shredded cheddar cheese, and it was so good. And I've been eating that for a few nights.
Well, that sounds like a Southwest baked potato. That sounds
It kind of
delicious.
It was good.
Sounds so good.
Yes, and easy. So that brings us to what we're talking about tonight. As people are getting back into the school routine, or starting a new school routine for some, we know that
Yes.
dinners and dinner time is absolute chaos in some cases.
Yes, it certainly can be absolute chaos, like in my particular point last night. Um, but there are ways that we can handle that chaos.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I know in my family is probably a little bit more chaotic than your family. I do have older boys who are very involved in 4 H, in UIL events, in extracurricular activities. So some nights we might be home for 15 minutes and then out the door in back home, after bedtime. So for me, I have to have a plan. Whether it's I kind of in my mind have it listed out on my phone. I have a dry erase board on my fridge that I'll kind of put out stuff. Exactly like it might be leftovers. Find what you want in the fridge, heat it up, and that's what we're doing. Or as simple as crock pot, our salsa verde tacos that we have that recipe on our dinner tonight website. It's a go-to for our family, and we always have leftovers, so we can make it into a stew or something else, or another night have tacos. It's always a family favorite of ours. So kind of having that plan of things works really good for me. How about you? How do you handle planning?
Yeah, well, luckily I have a little bit more control over our schedule right now. I know exactly when the after work and after school activities are going to be, and like I said, I have a little bit more control over that than you do. So that does make it a little easier for me. But we are still very much in the phase of like I don't get a lot of time to prep in the kitchen without a little one coming up and needing something or wanting snacks or needing a refill on the milk or whatever. So I always try and do things that require minimal dishes and kind of honestly some minimal prep. Like my last recipe that I just talked about with the sweet potatoes and the ground beef. It was very simple. It's a very simple kind of recipe, and it took very little out of me in my evening to prep that. And then, of course, I ate that for a few nights. So I think that brings us to what is an easy meal? So I think easy is kind of a subjective term, right? Something that's easy for you is not easy for me, and vice versa.
Yes.
So you kind of talked about how the cook once, eat twice concept is easy for you guys. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, cook once, eat twice. I love this. So whether we grilled chicken and I prep more of it and then we eat for dinner, we can take some for lunches the next day, or I will make sure I'll have enough and then I can make like a quick chicken pasta or a chicken fried rice the next night or in a day or two. Again, not having that leftover protein, like life gets crazy. Sometimes you have those really good intentions and things pop up on the calendar that sometimes you know about, sometimes you don't. But again, your cooked proteins you don't want to leave in the fridge for any more than 3 to 5 days. So sometimes I'll have this great intention, I'll have it all chopped up, ready to go, but something comes up. And so what I'll actually do is I'll have it pre-chopped, put it in that freezer bag, label it, and put it in the freezer for the next week. But doing things on the grill, your slow cooker. I love a good slow cooker. I am notorious for doing several things in the slow cooker, whether it's a protein, pork or beef or chicken. Cooking it all away, we're going to eat it that night, and then a couple of days later we'll turn it, or the next day I'll turn like slow cooker, like pulled pork, but you do it not on the grill, in the slow cooker, and then topping it on baked potatoes or making wraps, or so some things like that. I also love to use my electric pressure cooker. Whether I know some people that's not your favorite thing,
No.
I really do love that. On those busy weeknights, one of my favorites is a burrito bowl, just because it's one pot. I saute, cook all my ground beef on sear in it. I add the rice, I add all my veggies, everything in there, put the lid on, and then I just walk away.
Yeah.
And I can work on laundry or help with homework, or if I got to go pick a kid up from the school, knowing I'm going to be back in a few minutes, I can do that. I love that. I also love using my air fryer. I know some people are like, well, it's like an oven. I love it just to do, first of all, it gets a lot hotter than my oven. For some reason, my oven at my house takes a long time to get hot. And sometimes it just doesn't hold that temperature. But whether I'm making a quick side of like roasted carrots or okra, or even some homemade French fries, cutting up some potatoes and putting a little oil and seasoning on them and putting them in there for 10 to 15 minutes while I work on something on the grill or here. Love it. And again, I just have 2 little trays I have to clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that's the other thing, when we talk about those easy dinners, most of the time people are not wanting a ton of dishes. I know personally I don't, because time is precious. Everybody's time is precious. Whether that's spending time with our family, or doing those hobbies we love, or volunteering, whatever it may be, you don't want to spend all your time in the kitchen cooking a huge meal and then having to clean up from it. So the less dishes I can have, especially during a weeknight, I love.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you love your electric pressure cooker. But that is just not one of the things that I like to use. It's not one of my favorite kitchen tools. And so I think that that brings us to a good point where easy looks different for every family. And so really
Yes.
finding the things that you enjoy cooking with, the tools that you enjoy using, or tools that you really find help in the evenings are going to be your best bet. And then to try and plan on making those recipes and searching out those recipes to go with the tools that you have and the tools that you enjoy using. And that brings us into kind of our next topic, which is meal planning. I know this is
Mm-hmm.
something that a lot of people struggle with, because there's a lot of variables with meal planning. And there's also a lot of that mental labor with having to do meal planning. So let's get into this and let's start out with, do you want to start out with grocery shopping or looking at your calendar? What do you want to talk about first?
I think the big thing for meal planning, let's talk about looking at the calendar.
Mhm.
That is the biggest thing, I think, of kind of having an idea of what you've got going on, whether you're going to meal plan, a week, two
Mhm.
weeks, you're going to plan out your whole month. Those people who can do your whole month, I hats off to you.
Right, more power to you.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Yes.
Me, sometimes it's 3 days out of the week. We get a meal plan done. But really looking at your calendar, looking at not only your calendar, your spouse, um, those other people who are involved with your mealtime, your kids' calendars, those things. As a county extension agent, sometimes, yes, I might be off at 5 o'clock, but if I am running around all day helping with camps or in a classroom, I might want a little simpler of a dinner and not want to go all in. So, also looking at what you're going to be doing that day can kind of help where maybe it's something you have frozen and then you just that morning dump it in the crock pot and when you walk in the door it's ready. So
Yeah.
but what do you have to add with planning? I mean, besides we're just looking at your calendar, taking pen and paper,
Mhm.
and really digesting what's going to work for your family.
Yeah, I think the other important thing to note is how often realistically are you able to go to the grocery store? Because I think that looks very different for a lot of people. Some people, if you live in a more urban community where you've got a grocery store on every other street corner, maybe you can go a couple times a week. But if you live in a more rural community where you're having to drive 45 minutes to an hour to a grocery store, you don't want to be doing that twice a week, you know? Um,
Yes.
so being realistic with how often you can make it to the grocery store and how often you want to go to the grocery store. Like just because I can go to the grocery store every day doesn't mean I want to, and doesn't mean I have the time for it. So I typically plan a week out. So I sit down on like Friday night, Saturday, Sunday sometime and plan all my ingredients that I need to buy for my grocery trip on Sunday. And then I come home, do a little bit of prep certain ingredients if I need to get them where they need to be for later in the week when I'm actually going to use them. And then that sets me up for like a really strategic meal plan for the rest of the week. So figuring out how often you can or are going to go to the grocery store, and then yeah, looking at what types of meals are going to work for the days that you've got coming up that week. I think those are really kind of the two most important things, and also not to be too like aspirational. I think don't
Yes.
on
Yes.
Sunday evening you have really good intentions, but then like you said, if you are walking out the door at 5 o'clock or 5:30 and you're exhausted, are you really gonna make something totally from scratch and use 100 dishes? Like, no, you're not gonna want
You're
to
not
do
gonna
that. So
yeah.
being realistic about your like capacity to prep is, I think, very important too.
And that brings up another great point. Our capacity as, parents, caregivers to prepare the meal, especially as our children or the people we live with, there is nothing saying that only one person has to prepare all
Mhm.
the meals. So get everybody involved. I think when we go to start talking about meal planning, asking your kids, what do they want? Maybe here lately in our house on Tuesdays, my youngest has all been about Taco Tuesday. He is like, it is Tuesday. We need to have tacos.
Yeah.
And he eats them every Tuesday. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is a win-win.
Yep.
Um, and he wants to get in and help saute stuff. And I mean, we change it up on our tacos. We're not just having ground beef. We'll do some carne asada. We'll do some shrimp. So changing up the protein a little bit and
Mhm.
making it a little variety so you can because sometimes we get more bored. I think people get bored and they set those expectations of, oh, I'm going to try this new recipe because you have your standard, this is what we eat. But trying to kind of spice things up, always trying something new. But again, making sure what your family's really going to eat and what they like.
Hmm.
My meal planning looks a little bit different than how you meal plan.
Yes.
Mine, I do a lot of times in my head or on a dry erase sheet. I live a lot more rural than you do, so sometimes it is a once a month big trip. We are very blessed because we have a little local grocery store, but I always kind of have an idea of 4 to 5 recipes that my family eats, and I usually have all the ingredients on hand.
Hmm.
So we always have, like, I always have ground beef, I always have ground chicken. We love stir fries. Stir fries are, um, if you guys are looking for quick, easy recipes, um, throwing a bunch of either frozen or fresh vegetables in a protein in a skillet on high heat and sauteing it down and adding a sauce and serving it either over noodles or rice. My kids will eat it, and you can definitely adapt it to whatever you have, and it's a great way also. End of the week, we're getting bored, you have those leftover produce, half an onion, a fourth of bell pepper,
Hmm.
some squash, whatever vegetables, they will work really good in a stir fry. So we do that quite frequently. Um, so I always kind of knew that. But the other thing is I think having a stock pantry is huge
Hmm.
when we really get into talking about meal planning. Uh, Not that you have to have an overly stocked fridge or pantry, but having those staples on hand is huge, especially if in a more rural area, sometimes you can't find those ingredients a little bit. It might be
Hmm.
harder to get something. So having uh, things kind of on hand where you can just like, oh, okay, I'm going to throw this together.
Hmm.
Uh, but my pantry is going to probably look totally different than your pantry.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I'm still in definitely in the pickier eater phase. But yeah, I think that's an important point. I always have what I call like a backup recipe,
Mm-hmm.
where all the ingredients are like shelf stable essentially. Or like I have a chicken pot pie that's like my go-to because I have the recipe memorized in my mind and I don't need to look up on, the internet how to make it or anything like that. I have it all memorized and I can have all the ingredients either in cans or in the freezer and I can just throw it together super simply and easily if I don't have a meal plan, which is actually very
Mm-hmm.
rare for me. But if I don't, or something changes or shifts, then I have this as a backup meal plan. And then I just know the next time I'm going to go to the grocery store to replace that set of ingredients. So I love the idea of knowing what you've got in your pantry and having kind of a well stocked pantry. And I think, like you said, the important point is that you have to have like a crazy abundance of things. But having a backup grain, having some backup vegetables in the freezer or canned. Just kind of knowing that you've got some things you can pull together in a pinch.
Oh yeah, and I mean it. In one thing to talk about is our freezer. I know we talked a lot about our pantry and having those shelf stable. I love a freezer. Um, on Sundays, I will go through and be like, okay, I'm gonna do a ground beef dish this day. We're gonna have grilled chicken this day.
Mhm.
On Friday, we're going to do pizza. I can go pull all those proteins. Or my favorite thing I love to keep on hand in my freezer is I make my own spaghetti sauce, have the meat already in it. It
Okay.
is there in a Ziploc bag or a freezer container. I can pull that out and just make some noodles, throw that in there, have broccoli, green beans, a salad, and we've got a pretty well balanced meal for dinner in not a lot of time. And I love having, I always try to keep, some people keep their spaghetti sauce in the pantry. I keep mine in the freezer because it's ready to go. But having those items where you know, okay, this week, because I think sometimes people get very discouraged. They're like, oh, I forgot to pull out the ground beef.
Hmm.
I can't cook tonight. Or they're buying fresh when they have frozen. So, using your microwave. Microwaves are great to thaw food.
Hmm.
Jet defrost, yes, it's going to take you a little longer, but I promise it will work. The other thing is having or your running water. I always
Mhm.
forget to pull out my shrimp beforehand. I mean, every time we
Yeah.
do a recipe with shrimp, I forget to pull it out and put them in a strainer under cold running water, 10 to 15 minutes, and all that shrimp is thawed, and I can pull it if I got it with the shell on. Usually I try not to, and I'm ready to cook. So while it's thawing, I can cook or chop all my vegetables, get sauces ready, things in 25 to 30 minutes, have dinner ready. So,
That's awesome. You mentioned something that I think is really interesting. We talk about, you know, the mental fatigue of like trying to make decisions around what recipes to search for and what recipes is my family going to eat and what do I really need to pull together to make a complete meal. So I think it's a good reminder that it's recommended that you vary your types of lean protein. So if you're stuck on what, recipe to have in Thursday's time slot, look at what else you've got planned. And if you've got beef and chicken already, then look for some seafood or look for some pork or something like that. So keeping in mind that it is recommended to vary your protein, your lean protein across a week. And then also if you're not familiar with the My Plate method, it's a really wonderful framework for helping you
yes.
understand what kind of a plate should look like. So it talks about protein, it talks about vegetables, talks about fruit and grains, whole grains. So if you and dairy. So if you're struggling, I always recommend think about the My Plate framework and think about what is that meal going to end up looking like and then what am I missing. So if you've already got your protein and your vegetables decided and it's topped with some cheese to get the dairy in there, you're left with fruit and whole grains. That'll help you round out what you can decide to serve as a side dish. So I love keeping that in the back of my mind, so that
Yes.
I can make like a complete meal for myself and my child.
I think that's totally right. And I think the other thing is sometimes when we come to sides, we get very in a rut. So not only varying your proteins, but varying your vegetables, varying your fruit. I know kids are very picky when it
Hmm.
comes to vegetables, but try varying it up. Try different sides, try different methods of cooking it. I always tell people just because you may have had it raw doesn't mean you might not like it cooked, or if you have it, you don't like it cooked, you might prefer it raw. So trying up those sort of things, and kind of having a variety on hand, that way you kind of know, oh, we're gonna do this green instead of broccoli. We're gonna try peas today,
Yep.
or instead of that, we're gonna do corn, or maybe mom's gonna make a quick cucumber salad with a bunch of leftover onions and peppers and cucumbers and do something like that. So I think trying to remember that, again, one thing I want to stress about the My Plate method that I really try to instill on my boys is half our plate fruits
Hmm.
and vegetables,
Yep.
a fourth protein, which I know is very, we live here in Texas. We love our protein. We
Hmm.
love those big things, but only a fourth of that plate needs to be protein, and the other fourth needs to be our grains. Again, whole grains preferably, and then having some sort of serving of dairy. So whether that's milk, cheese, yogurt. That brings
That's
us
right.
up to the other point is, you've spent all this time getting all your food together. They're getting in the kitchen, they're helping you. Talk about what's nutritious, what's not. And if you don't know, reach out to your local extension agent and they can get you some resources.
Well, yeah, and even starting with that, like you said, getting input on recipes. I mean, having those conversations with your kids when they're young about varying your proteins and switching up your vegetables. I mean, that can really have a positive, lasting impact on
Mm-hmm.
how they grow up to meal plan and cook for themselves and their family. So it's never too early in their life or in the meal planning process to get them involved and have those conversations. because I think you'll be surprised at what kind of opinions they have, and then
Yes.
how they're more likely to try the end recipe if they're the one who picked it out. Stuff like that. So then getting them involved in the planning, the finding the recipes, all the way to, like you said, getting them involved in the cooking. No one
Yes.
says that one person has to do all the cooking every single night. Get your kids involved so that they learn how meal prepping works and how the cooking process works and develop those life skills. And then, of course, sit together and share a meal. So, Wendy,
Yes.
talk about a little bit about why it's so important for you to make time and have these family meals.
Well, and I think one of the big things I see as a parent and having that family mealtime is my kids are getting older.
Hmm.
My time with them, they are going all these different directions. So that is one time where we can sit down, have a conversation, find out what's going on. Sometimes you realize, oh, you're playing football, or oh, you've decided to do this. When it was like, no, I'm not going to, but having those discussions and conversations and just sitting down and spending time as a family over a meal, I think that's something that goes way back when, at the end of the day, even the pioneers would sit down around a table and talk about how their day went, what they needed to do for the next day, and just visit and relax. But I think the other thing is you can start setting some good I'm a loss for words here, foundations maybe of healthy eating. um you're not rushed to eat, which again, sometimes if we're in such a hurry, you can eat so much, you're in a hurry, you're gonna eat really faster. But really taking your time, having that conversation as your food is digesting. um and then just having conversations can definitely help your kids with their mental health and growing up and having connections. There's so much research out there about sitting down and having meals as family really is so beneficial to our kids. Now, everybody's mealtime will probably look a little different.
Hmm.
What you're going to eat is going to look a little different, but making sure. And I think the other thing is nowadays, and I think you would probably agree with me, Odessa, on this one, is unplug. Set
Yes.
the phones aside, turn off the TV, and really just be present in the moment. And that's something I've really been trying to stress with my boys. When we sit down, clear the table off. I always have to tell them the table is not for laundry or clutter, it is for meals.
Yeah,
So we clear it off at least 3 times a week, and really make a purpose to sit down and connect with each other.
that's
But
wonderful.
but how about for you? Why do you see mealtime so as important, especially having a young child?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, and I think in the line of work that we do, we focus on this a lot. So we're aware of the research and how that it's been shown, and the body of research is continually growing on this. But we are seeing that there are a lot of positive benefits of having your family sit around a table and have some dedicated time to talk to each other and learn more about each other and connect with each other. All the way from literacy rates in younger kids to positive relationships with foods and health, all the way to as kids are getting older to having that strong social foundations. They're less likely to take or engage in high risk activities, stuff like that. So we know that there are a lot of reasons why it's worth putting the time and effort into meal planning and doing all of this to sit down and have a good meal together. So with my daughter right now, it's a lot about setting an example. And so luckily, like I said, she doesn't have a cell phone, so I don't have to tell her to unplug. But I put my phone away and on a separate table, so that there's no temptation for distraction, so that we have kind of that dedicated time to talk to each other. And I get to ask her questions about her day, and she gets to tell me stories, even if they're made up, about things that she played on the playground today. So it's really fun. It's wonderful. but it also sets a healthy example for, like I said, what a positive mealtime can look like for her for the rest of her life, but also, again, having that healthy relationship with food, um,
Yes,
and
so
finishing.
important.
Yes, yes. I mean, engaging with food, trying new foods that you're not familiar with, looking at eating until you're full, or leaving food on your plate if you are full before you finish it, all that good stuff. So there are so many reasons why it is worth to put the time and effort into doing all of this and meal planning. And two, I think at the end of the day, too, it also goes to reducing food waste and keeping that
Yes.
money that you're spending um, working for you in a positive way. So I think that's another thing to add on to as a benefit as to why this is really important and, again, worth the time and effort is, in the long run it can save you money and reduce your food waste.
Oh, definitely. I think we all spend so much money on our groceries. It seems like more and more each and every day. But having that, not letting food go to waste and where it just rots away in your fridge, the forgotten stuff in the back of the drawer. We don't want that to happen. But that does kind of bring me to my point of yes, we're talking about family mealtime. Yes, we want you to cook meals. We want you to plan, but we also want you to be very realistic.
Mhm.
So we do, I know myself, occasionally it goes into the plan. We're getting a pizza or we're going here for dinner because maybe it's just that's our only option.
Mhm.
Especially I know with doctor's appointments where you have to travel or games or this, sometimes schedules just don't allow you time to get home. So we do want to be realistic, but also tell you when you do have to build it into your plan.
Mhm.
Hey, we're going to, I know my boys get so excited if we're like, okay, we're going to go eat out. And
Yeah.
they're like, it's something kind of to look forward to. I know I personally like to look forward to it because I don't have to cook and I don't have to do dishes.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
build that in. And again, we try to remember those balanced meals. Um, and again, you are sitting around a table, and even though you're out, you're still having that family meal time and have conversations. Do try to, when you go to those restaurants, or if even if it's just sandwiches at the ballpark, you guys do unplug for those cell phones and the technology and try to, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, have that quality time with each other,
Mhm.
um, and have those conversations and just connect with each other. So that's the important part about family mealtime, whether it's at home with a home cooked meal or if it's out and about or even in the car. Because sometimes I have to say, family mealtime might happen in the car because it does occasionally in our house.
It happens, but I think that's wonderful. And yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay, so we talked about a lot of things today. We talked
Yes.
about what makes an easy dinner, different strategies to look out for your family. We talked a lot about grocery shopping and meal planning. And then, of course, we wrapped it up with family meal time. So I did want to share a couple resources that we have on our website, dinnertonight.tamu.edu, that would be really helpful for this conversation. So Wendy mentioned we do have a salsa verde recipe on
Mm-hmm.
there, but we also have several other recipes that fall into that cook once, eat twice concept. We have a barbecue chicken recipe, we have some ground beef recipes, and then we do have quite a few roast recipes. So whether it be a beef roast or a pork roast that you can throw in the slow cooker and make tacos from, and do a whole variety of things. And we have those recommendations on our website. So head to dinnertonight.tamu.edu for those recipes and even more recipes. We have hundreds of recipes online that are
Yes.
all simple, easy. The recipe or the ingredients are easy to find. And they're all made by the Dinner Tonight team, which consists of county extension agents, but also real people and real parents, and real you know,
Grandparents.
grandparents and people who have full-time jobs and understand these struggles. So head there for recipes, tips, and more. And you can also find us on social media at on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. And we are constantly sharing brand new recipes, new tips, nutritional information, food safety information. We have all that good stuff on there. And we also have a meal subscription option. So a few times a year, we have a meal subscription sign up where you can sign up and you get 12 weeks of pre-planned menus for you. So we give you the menu for the week, we give you the grocery list, and we give you the recipe cards. So if you really are that over meal planning, we can do a little bit of it for you.
Yes.
So just follow us on social media and you'll see when those come out a few times a year. Just look for the maroon spoon, fork, and knife, and you found us. Wendy, we'll
Yes.
see you in the kitchen.
Yes, I will see you in the kitchen. Bye, everyone.